You're listening to the Spark Your Light podcast, episode number 260, Aligning Your Self-Image with Your Goals. This episode is for you if you feel like you are doing all the things to reach your goals, but it still feels like they're out of reach, and you often wonder, what am I doing wrong? What's the missing piece? If that's you, I know that I have felt that many times in my journey. And what we're talking about in today's episode with self-image has made a profound impact for me in helping me achieve my goals and simply feeling better. It is such a win-win, and I'm so excited to dive into today's topic. Thank you so much to SYL for sponsoring today's episode. So self-image is the way that you see yourself. It is your identity, and it matters a lot. Our identity creates our thoughts, and our thoughts create our actions, and our actions create the circumstances that we have in our life. So if you do not have a self-image that aligns with the circumstances that you want to create, then you are going to fight yourself over and over and over again, despite how hard you're working, despite how many hours you're putting in. There is something that's not connecting because the self-image is creating thoughts and actions, and those are not aligning with where you want to go in your life. So this is really, really important. The example I always like to give, because I think it's one that we can all relate to, is the self-image of being a healthy and fit person versus being a lazy and out of shape person. So if you see yourself as a healthy and fit person and you have a goal to go to the gym, let's say 5 times a week, every day, Monday to Friday, and on a particular day, there's something that comes up and it delays you. You were going to go after work, but someone in your family needs something, and so you're going to actually go handle that first. But you see yourself as a healthy and fit person. That will create thoughts of, for example, I'm not able to go to the gym after work because I have to go address this thing for my family, which is more important. But what I plan to do is I plan to do a 20-minute yoga video at home after I get home before bed, just to fit in my workout for the day. That sounds really nice and like something I will enjoy. Versus a person who sees themselves as lazy and out of shape is going to have thoughts like, I can't fit in the gym today. I have to do this thing for my family. I guess I'll have to skip. And this compounds over time. And eventually, the person who sees themselves as lazy or out of shape has given up on their goal because ultimately they don't see themselves as the kind of person who goes to the gym consistently. Whereas the person who sees themselves as healthy and fit has found a way to bounce back, even if there were days that they had to skip or make changes to their routine, because they see themselves as the kind of person that consistently exercises. So this is so impactful in actually achieving your goals. And now that you see this, you might be wondering, okay, great. How do I actually start to change the way I see myself? There's a couple different strategies I'm going to address in this episode. The first one is through repetition and affirmations. So remember that affirmations really do rewire our brain through repetition, because repetition is the brain's language. So the more that you repeat an affirmation to yourself, the more that your brain will accept it as the truth. But there's one caveat. That is only if it's something that you actually believe. So a lot of times I find people say, well, affirmations don't work for me, because they try this really big and bold affirmation that feels so out of reach and untrue for them. So for example, the person who sees themselves as out of shape, if they try a daily affirmation of, I am healthy and fit, and they start saying that every morning, but they know that they're out of shape. They skip half their workouts. They eat McDonald's for lunch twice a week. Then it's really not going to feel true for them, and it's not going to do any brain rewiring. Instead, it's going to pull them further away from that because of the resistance they feel. So what is more helpful in this case is to choose an affirmation. It's called a bridge affirmation, and it bridges the gap between where you are now and where you want to go by stating something that you actually believe is true and is one step closer to the self-image you really want to have. So going along with the example of wanting to see yourself as healthy and fit, but feeling like that's really far off, maybe the affirmation is, every day I become a healthier version of myself. And that's something that you actually do believe, because despite feeling like you're not quite there yet in really being a healthy and fit person, you are making small changes every day that do add up and that do help you see yourself in a different light. So that'd be a really great bridge affirmation. So affirmations are one really great way to start to work on changing the way that you see yourself. Another great way is through action. So the more that you do something, the more that you will start to identify with that thing. So if you do not see yourself as a runner, but you go outside and run just for 10 minutes a day for a week, by the end of the week, you're going to start seeing yourself a bit differently. And let's say you continue this for a month. I guarantee you that by the end of the month, you are going to see yourself as a runner. This is actually how I built the identity of seeing myself as a writer. When I wrote my first book, I felt like I was a terrible writer and that I would never get anywhere with writing books. But I also really loved writing. So it was this really weird conundrum where I felt like it wasn't something that came naturally to me, the way that I feel speaking does. But it was something that I really enjoyed, which felt really odd to me. And so I knew that if I wanted to have a career as an author, I needed to get better at writing. And it's funny because the way that I would get better at writing is also the way that I would change my identity and start to see myself as a writer. Because if I always saw myself as a speaker who happened to write books, then I probably wouldn't get great book deals, have great writing ideas, have fans who are really excited to read my writing and my books. But if I saw myself as a writer, I would build a fan base for my writing, and I would land opportunities solely because I was a writer and I wrote really engaging content. And so I knew that in order to build that identity, I would have to write consistently. So I started a practice where I was consistently writing, which turned into my weekly newsletters, which if you're not on my email list, they're just really fun midweek pick-me-ups, inspiring stories, powerful questions. We have it linked in the show notes. So if you are not on it and you'd like to sign up, you can grab that in the show notes and you can sign up. But that is the way that I started to see myself as a writer. And I noticed when I wrote my second book, not only was it a lot better than my first book, but it performed a lot better. I got a lot more positive feedback. I built more of a base of fans, all because I saw myself differently. And so the actions that I took, not only in writing the book, but also in marketing the book, were different, which created different circumstances. So it really does make a difference to start to do the thing. And then eventually you will start to see yourself that way with enough repetition. This does take about 10 seconds of courage. So 10 seconds of courage to actually go for that run, or even before that, to put on your running shoes and decide that you're going to run. Or let's say that you are really wanting that promotion at work, but you don't quite see yourself as the kind of person who is a manager or who gets paid that much money. It takes 10 seconds of courage to put yourself out there, to apply for the job, to walk into that interview. And then once you're doing it, it feels much easier. This is why a concept that James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits is just taking 5 minutes to start the habit. So, okay, I'm going to work out just for 5 minutes, because once you start 5 minutes later, you feel like, oh, you know what, this feels pretty good. I'm going to continue. And so if you just convince yourself, all I need is enough courage or willpower to get through 5 minutes, then you can continue. The same is true on an interview or maybe searching for jobs or all of these other things. So you just need that 10 seconds of courage. And I wanted to mention how courage is created. This is what my TEDx talk is about. And if you haven't watched it, you can we can link it in the show notes, but also it's under my maiden name, Jacqueline DiGregorio TEDx, and it will come up because a lot of people tell me, I can't find your TEDx, and I always hear you talking about it. That's why. But it's about courage. It's called the courage equation, and it's an equation I created based on my own experiences as well as experiences of others on what actually creates courage. And I found that courage is a result of having a little bit more self-belief than fear. And so if we want to create courage, we need to focus on our self-belief, and we don't need to focus on reducing fear. So this is really powerful because a lot of people think they need to be fearless, and that since they don't feel that way, then they might as well just give up. They're never going to be able to reach their goals. But ultimately, it's about building up their self-belief. And so how can we build up our self-belief? Well, we can work on some of those mindset practices that we've already talked about. We can also take incremental steps to move forward. So, for example, if you are going for that promotion where you're going to get paid more money, maybe you start with just a small jump. Maybe you're not going to jump 2 levels. You're just going to jump 1. Or maybe you're a business owner who wants to charge more for your work. Instead of maybe like doubling the price, maybe you'll just raise the price by 20% because that's something that you can get behind. And then once you're there and you do that enough times, you're going to feel confident enough to go for that next level, which is going to help create that courage through the self-belief and confidence that you've created. So there are many strategies that I've shared with you today, and my hope is that you can think about which really applies to what will feel most supportive for me right now with my personal goals and the changes that I want to make in my life, which resonate the most, which are things that you feel like you could commit to, and just try them out. I always say with mindset practices and strategies towards your goals, you can sort of think of it like a dressing room. Just go in, try it on, and if you don't like it, that's okay. There's other strategies. We have a whole toolkit of ways that you can improve your mindset, that you can change your self-image. So here are just some of the strategies in the toolkit today that might be helpful for you. So try them out and see how they go. And remember that when you change your self-image, everything trickles down and changes beyond that. And that is ultimately how you get different results in your life and how you create the circumstances that you want to be living instead of the ones that you feel you just sort of are stuck creating and you're not sure how to change. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode, and I will catch you in the next episode.